The largest bridge in the world, the title proudly held for more than 20 years by the giant cantilevered structures spanning the Firth of Forth. Opened in 1890, it carried the East Coast main line northwards into Fife, and together with the Tay Bridge, shortened the rail distance from Edinburgh to Dundee from 90 miles to less than 60. It cost £3.5 million to build, using 45,000 tonnes of steel and a labour force of 4,500 men, of whom 56 were killed during the work. The effects of saltwater corrosion require the steel spans to be repainted every 4 years, and a unique type of rail called the Forth Bridge section is to this day specially made for the bridge. When it was built, the bridge carried locomotives weighing only 75 tonnes, but the designers foresaw grander things to come, and the same structure now carries locomotives more than twice the weight. Moreover, each section of the bridge is designed to carry 2 trains at one end without any displacement of the cantilevers. It's said that 8 million rivets were used in the construction. The last one was driven home by the Prince of Wales in March 1890. Alas, the cinematograph had not been perfected by then, and no film record was made. But it wasn't long before the pioneer cameramen trudged out along high girders to record the engineering wonder of the world. This is a North British Railway 440 locomotive on a Perth to Edinburgh train in about 1910. In later years, a permit to walk the bridge became a privilege, much sought after by amateur photographers and enthusiasts. A movie buff took these scenes on the bridge in the 50s, when it was still an all-steam railway, and the great Pacifics of the old LNER still commanded the high iron of the Forth. "20 years were to elapse before a new road bridge spared the motorist the rigours of the old Forth ferry crossing. A V2 passes on an express, while a rake of pre-grouping carriages make up a local train. Steam has gone now, taking with it much of the bridge's character, and the local trains are now just diesel multiple units. But the advent of the high-speed train has given the bridge a new lease of life. Aberdeen to King's Cross now takes just over 7 hours, compared with 10 or more in steam days. But steam over the Forth is not entirely dead. The Union of South Africa, an A4 class Pacific, has been privately restored in Scotland for occasional mainline excursions. This was a trip sponsored by the Andrew Carnegie Trust in April 1985, from Edinburgh to Dunfermline. Same day, a second special ran, a double-header from Falkirk to Edinburgh. The 2 locomotives were prepared for the run at the Falkirk depot of the Scottish Railway Preservation Society. Built in 1891, the North British Railway 060 Maude went to France in the First World War, and after 50 years of freight duty in Scotland was acquired by the SRPS. Together with the comparatively modern XLMS Black 5 George Stephenson, Maude moved off to work the Haymarket Special. Falkirk Bank again as the two engines climb towards Polmont. Edinburgh Castle provides the backdrop for the two locos as they approach Haymarket after working their train. The pair were being positioned for static display at the British Rail Open Day. The A4 Pacific was also on display and steamed slowly past to remind us of the designer Sir Nigel Gresley's finest hour, when sister loco Mallard broke the world rail speed record in 1938 at 126 miles an hour. The A4 took its place amongst the diesels of today, including Class 47 number 715 in special ScotRail livery, preparing for a ceremony to name it after Haymarket Depot. The A4 was itself based at Haymarket in its heyday and was bought from British Rail in working order by Mr. John Cameron. Many of the class were named after Commonwealth countries, including South Africa before it became a republic. The Springbok symbol was typical of the special ornaments fitted to individual locomotives. Successors to the A4s on the East Coast run were the famous Deltic diesels, introduced in the late 50s. Their power and acceleration paved the way for the radically improved services now provided by the HSTs. Now displaced themselves, the Deltics are represented here by two preserved examples, normally kept on the North Yorkshire Moors line. One of Maude's most pleasant tasks in recent years has been to work the popular Santa specials round the Edinburgh suburban circle, starting from Waverley Station. Owing to the fragile state of this elderly locomotive, it's unlikely to be allowed on British rail tracks for much longer. But for the present, we can still enjoy the sight of her in the setting of a city terminus with the classic Edinburgh skyline. After leaving Calton Tunnel, Maude accelerates towards Portobello Junction. Old locomotives require special handling, and the crew devised a unique method of driving not normally found in the handbook. After Portobello, the train took the spur that curves westwards to Niddry West Junction, where it joins the old suburban line, now only used by freight. Just after the suburb of Craigmillar, Maude steams through open country, past the well-known landmark of Arthur's Seat, seldom viewed by the traveller from the south side. After passing the University Sports Ground at Prestonfield, the climb stiffens considerably. Poor old Maude has to be flogged a bit to make the grade. If he's old enough, the driver may remember that he used to shut off steam here for Newington Station, the halfway point on the suburban circle. The alignment of the track still leaves a clear gap where the station platform used to be. Morningside may be Edinburgh's most respectable suburb, yet you'd hardly think so to look at the remains of its station. After rejoining the main line at Dalry, Edinburgh Castle comes into view. From beneath the colonnade of the Scottish National Gallery, Maude emerges into daylight again and arrives back at Waverley Station. Further north on the line to Perth is the splendid station at Gleneagles, built by the Caledonian Railway to serve Scotland's most famous hotel and its golf course. A rare steam special came here in 1986, double-headed by Green Arrow and Evening Star. Green Arrow was the first of Sir Nigel Gresley's successful V2 mixed traffic class. A large crowd on a raw March day to see this unusual pairing, chartered by EMI and named the Music Express. One outstanding line that has now regrettably been deemed unsuitable for steam running is the Kyle of Lochalsh branch. It enjoyed a brief return to steam in 1982, but was found to be too remote to attract enough visitors. Some strange things happen in the Highlands. One of the 1982 charters to the Kyle was given a formal send-off by an Inverness piper engaged by the Japanese Toyota Motor Company. They were taking their guests to the Isle of Skye to road test their new range of cars. So it was that the motor car, traditional enemy of the country railway, became its friend, at least for the day. For the water stop at Achnasheen, nothing but the best was provided. Pure Highland spring water from the River Bran, pumped straight into the Black Five's tender beside a convenient bridge. The Toyota company men seemed rather ill at ease filling up a 45-year-old steam engine in a Highland glen, but Tokyo said do it, and so they did. Suitably refreshed, the specials set off again in the harsh Highland weather up Strathbran towards Achnashellach. After being hand-signalled across the Balnacra crossing, the special passed along Lochalsh on the final stretch towards the Kyle. The incongruous Toyota men awaited the train at Kyle, but were soon overtaken by the long-forgotten atmosphere of a steam arrival at this remote Highland terminus. The engine crew appeared to have stepped back 20 years, as though this was an everyday occurrence. Strathspey Railway's Black 5, number 5025, was uncoupled and driven up to the buffer stop, stone's throw from the Isle of Skye. Alas, the engine couldn't be turned. Shed and turntable had long since gone. So a diesel had to take the special back, while the Black 5 went tender first as light engine, 82 miles all the way back to Inverness. With an easterly gale whipping round the cab, this was no mean undertaking for the local crew, and this was one of the reasons steam to the Kyle did not continue. But no line was more unsuitable for cost-effective steam operation than the far north route to Wick and Thurso. It was earmarked for dieselisation as early as 1960, and all the line's steam had disappeared a year later. Few cameramen ventured so far north in steam days, but some amateur footage has come to light, taken in about 1955. Inverness Station appears in the days when service uniforms were an everyday sight, and a train for the far north leaves behind a Black 5 number 44798. Conan Bridge is seen from the carriage window before we arrive at Dingwall Station, junction for the Kyle branch. A glimpse of a Caledonian 440 displaced from further south lends a little pre-grouping atmosphere, while the Black 5 shunts a parcels van. The next scene is a view of the woods at Culrain and the viaduct approaching Invershin station, where the signal box, now long since gone, was still in use as the Black 5 accelerated hard on the climb towards Lairg. At the Mound, a small Highland engine waits with the Dornoch branch train for laundry baskets and perhaps some passengers. Leaving Helmsdale with its small local shed, the line strikes inland across the desolate moor of Altnabreck, where snow barriers serve as a reminder of the dangers of deep drifts. Georgemas, the most northerly junction in the British Isles, where another old 440 could be seen shunting, probably waiting for the Thurso portion of the train from Inverness. The Black 5 arrives at Wick, the furthest station on the BR network, 742 miles by rail from London. And we have a final view of the return train waiting to leave in the last years of steam. Or were they? As we said before, strange things do happen in the Highlands. In 1986, the highly successful steam excursions to Mallaig on the West Highland seemed threatened by the imminent abolition of traditional signalling in favour of radio control. So BR set up a test to see if the new system could be used on a steam loco. A Black 5 was sent all the way from Fort William down to Glasgow, then up the Highland line through Perth to Inverness. It was temporarily fitted with a transmitter receiver and booked to work a one-off excursion on the only route currently using radio control, the far north line beyond Dingwall. The locomotive was Ian Story's number 44767, now named George Stephenson, and built by the LMS in 1947. The train crosses the bridge over the River Connon and then runs alongside the Cromarty Firth near Evington. Invergorton station is the first on the radio-controlled section, as can be seen from the abandoned Highland Railway posts shorn of their signal arms. Some of the old equipment survives in a derelict state, but there's no longer a signal box to operate it. The Victorian station canopy is now surmounted by a cluster of aerials, transmitting and receiving train drivers' signals from Dingwall to Tain, the next station up the line. So, after receiving an invisible right away, the Black 5 sets off for Tain. Many of the stations on the line have lost more than just their signals. Invershin is now a ruin, although it survives as a halt, while Loth, Evington, the Maude and many others have either been sold as private houses or disappeared altogether. Tain, though, remains a principal station on the far north line and happily is well cared for. Modern British rail name boards may lack charm, but they do indicate some faith in the future. Tain in the old days had sufficient traffic to warrant its own local train service to Inverness, 2 trains each way daily, in addition to the through service to Wick, but these ended when the steam shed closed in 1961. George Stephenson was the first steam loco to leave Tain for 25 years, heading north towards the Dornoch Firth. After crossing the Kyle of Sutherland at Culrain, the train climbs up the valley of the River Shin before shutting off for Lairg. The line reaches a summit beyond Lairg at the head of Strathfleet, where a lone photographer braved a downpour to capture this unique steam working. Lochalsh station was closed in June 1960 and is now a private house. Beyond Golspie, the Duke of Sutherland's private station at Dunrobin, and a traditional welcome provided. The significance of this stop lies in the fact that but for the encouragement of the third Duke, this railway would never have been built beyond the Dornoch Firth. From the turrets and spires of his seat at Dunrobin Castle, the Duke promoted the extension of the Far North Line, obtaining his own Act of Parliament in 1870. He was so impatient he actually started building the line before the royal assent was given, and for many years ran his own private train. The Sutherland Company was eventually taken over by the Highland, but the original name survives on many of the structures, with of course a special mention of the Duke. The steam special terminated in the rain at Helmsdale, 102 miles from Inverness. For the Black 5, a new record as the most widely travelled preserved steam engine in the country. There's no longer a turntable here, so, discomfort or not, the return trip had to be made tender first in the pouring rain, here passing the Bay of Port Gower. At Rogart, George Stephenson starts to tackle the long climb back to Lairg summit, and raises echoes not heard in Strathfleet for a quarter of a century. Beyond Lairg, the hard work is over, and the local coasts back along the Firth. Invergordon Station again with its handsome Highland Railway ironwork. On returning to Inverness, the radio aerials were removed, and the loco was sent overnight to Aviemore for servicing. This is the headquarters of the Strathspey Railway, who still use the original Highland steam shed, and they also run 5 miles of the old Forest line as far as Boat of Garton. Black 5 we saw running to Kyle is also based here. George Stephenson was prepared here for a run with 2 service coaches back to Glasgow. The loco is seen at the Strathspey's own station at Aviemore before picking up its train. Rare opportunity to see steam in action on the scenic Highland Railway main line to Perth. train is now climbing to Dromorta Pass in the Grampian Mountains. This is the highest point on the entire British Rail network at 1,484 feet above sea level. After passing Pitlochry and Dunkeld, the train returns to the lowlands after a memorable and unique tour that took steam over nearly 2/3 of the old Highland Railway system.